Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we'll be looking at Breath of the Wild sequel slash prequel. It's hard to say where exactly this falls, but let me assure you something. It's a game, alright. Now for one, I think the idea of this game, having a Musou Warriors game mixed in with the Breath of the Wild story, I think is amazing. And especially going back 100 years before the events of Breath of the Wild, I think is a genius move. Now how that all plays out, We'll get into that. So without further ado, let's get into Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. The story takes place 100 years before Breath of the Wild, and I gotta say, I am so thankful that it does. There's an actual story to this game, and I'm so happy for that. So the basic plot, without any spoilers, I do have some issues with the story, but that might be for a future video. But right now, let's just go to the basic plot synopsis. This is the story of the Calamity Ganon when it first attacked Hyrule. You go around recruiting champions all over Hyrule in order to stop the Calamity before it's too late. And that's all I can say without spoiling it. So if you want, we can discuss this at a later time, but for now, that's all you're getting. The graphics overall are fine, but it's a noticeable downgrade from Breath of the Wild. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand why the graphics are worse. If it was just like the original, it would look like a PowerPoint slide the entire time. So for that, I understand why they would cut the graphics just a bit. It's not too bad, but the textures are muddy in some areas and pop-ins happen frequently. The lighting isn't the best either, but the character models look pretty good. For a game like Hyrule Warriors, I understand this, but it still doesn't look that great. The art style matches Breath of the Wild, so really, I like the art style, but the graphics could be better. But for the system that it's on, I understand why. It just doesn't look that great compared to other games. Overall, the game looks fine for the type of game that it is. The gameplay overall is pretty fun and entertaining. But there are some things that might turn off people. First thing is the frame rate, and to be honest, the frame rate isn't great. I mentioned a PowerPoint slide before, and while it's not that bad in actual gameplay, but in certain special attacks or maneuvers, the frame rate can chug. It's especially bad when a lot of enemies are attacking, or when there are explosions. Basically, when anything gets too rowdy on screen, the frame rate chugs a lot. While this doesn't completely ruin the game for me, it is worth noting because it is noticeable. Luckily, it's not to the point that it just breaks the game for me. It's there, you'll notice it, but after a while, you'll just get used to it. I'm not trying to defend that, but that's just how it is. Luckily, the gameplay is actually pretty fun, especially for quick sessions. This is one of those games that I think you should just take some breaks between, because otherwise you might get burnt out just by the game being kind of repetitive after a while. And yeah, the game can be repetitive because you are essentially either capturing outposts or clearing out key enemies. However, they do mix up some mission types, like adding time limit or having you escort someone. A cool thing that they added in this game is that some of the environments can be destroyed, whether it be bombs or just powerful attacks, which is pretty awesome, and it makes me hope for something like that in Breath of the Wild 2. You can also use your Sheikah Slate to interact with some objects in the world. This can nab you some rupees or material, or you can even find the Korok dudes, which are hiding throughout the levels, which is pretty cool to see them back. It's not like a puzzle like it is in Breath of the Wild to find them, but they are hidden pretty well. Or at least I have a hard time finding them. There are also elemental rods you can use in battle that can give you a sort of advantage over the enemy. Or if you're like me and just running low on health and have no specials, just pop a rod on them and just wail. Age of Calamity also introduces the Divine Beasts as playable characters. Each one has different attacks and specials. And honestly, it's a breath of fresh air to play these segments. It's very satisfying wiping out entire armies in these mecha warriors. But back to the normal gameplay loop, there's a lot to dig in. There is a meaty game if you want it to be. Yeah, you can just cruise through the story. I don't think you have to grind a lot. I've been doing a lot of the side content because I like filling out the board and completing everything in sight. But I believe you can just go through the story if that's what you're looking for in this game, which is a good thing to look for in this game because Breath of the Wild does not have a story. There are missions everywhere on the map, and it's really satisfying completing each one. There are also character icons that require material in order to complete. These can unlock more combos, more hearts, or even special attack bars. I love unlocking combos for characters. It's an addicting loop that will keep you playing this game. I'll be honest, I didn't like the original Hyrule Warriors. I got the definitive edition on Switch and I did not like it. I just didn't really know Dynasty Warrior gameplay that much, and I still really don't. But for some reason, Age of Calamity just feels so much better to play. And I'm saying this because a lot of people might not be Dynasty Warrior fans, or even Hyrule Warriors fans, but if you're not, I would still give this a chance because it's worth playing. The music is pretty rad. While Breath of the Wild had more atmospheric music, this of course was appropriate for the type of game that Breath of the Wild was. But Age of Calamity hits us with a more traditional soundtrack, and you know what? I am here for it. The music is a jam. There are some standout tracks in the crowd, especially for some of the Champions music and how they remix them. Oh man, that's some good stuff. Also, I know this doesn't have anything to do with the music, but some of the characters' voices are pretty low compared to the rest of the audio. It's very weird to see in a scene where the music swells, but the characters, when they talk, or at least for some of them, you can barely hear them.
This will be a dangerous mission. What did you say?
Overall, great music here with remixes that will get stuck in your head. Overall, I had a pretty good time with this game. I was a little nervous at first because I didn't really like Hyrule Warriors, and maybe if I gave it another chance I would like it again, but that first experience, I didn't enjoy the gameplay at all. But for Age of Calamity, I really enjoyed it. I had a really good time with it. I don't know what changed. Maybe it's just the graphics, or maybe it was just the gameplay changed just a little enough to where I didn't mind it so much. Or maybe I just wanted to see what was next in the story. I don't know. The point is, I think you should try this game out, especially if you like Breath of the Wild. Yeah, the gameplay isn't as good. Unless you're a Dynasty Warriors fan, then you probably already have the game. But if you're like me and you're like, well, I don't really care for Dynasty Warriors or Hyrule Warriors gameplay, but I'm really intrigued of the story of Breath of the Wild, I would pick this up. And it might change your mind because it sure changed mine. Yeah, it has some problems. The frame rate, not great. Graphics could be a lot better. But the gameplay is pretty fun. It can be repetitive, but overall, I had a really good time with it. It clicked for me for some reason. So it might click for you. If you have this game, or you've played it, or you're thinking about playing it, let me know in the comments, what are your thoughts on this game? Do you like it? Did the story live up to your expectations? Because I have some thoughts, and we might do another video later on talking about it. But let me know down below, and I'll see y'all next time.